Greetings. Frederick Riddle here with another episode of Christian News and Views. This is episode 26 2. Today's Friday, and according to our new format, I give you additional news rather than just a recap as I formerly did. So there's been some movement over there in Iran, so we're going to take a look at that. Iran's nearly week-long protests, sparked by economic despair, but quickly widening into demands for broad change, have turned deadly, with multiple human rights groups saying that several people have been killed by security forces. President Donald Trump issued a warning to Iran on social media on Friday, writing that if Iran violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go. The White House did not immediately respond to a request for comment on what kind of aid Trump was referring to. But Hengaw said Koyarfard was a protester and the authorities were pressuring his family to declare that their son was a member of the Basik, including by making the return of his body contingent on such a claim. And the reason that might be important is in a separate article, I think. I thought I saw something in this article here about that very thing, which they were making a claim about somebody. I'm not seeing it. Okay, I'm not seeing it. I thought I saw it here earlier when I was looking through it, but escaping me right now. But this is something where they're trying to lay the blame on somebody else other than themselves that their own forces have been guilty of. Resuming here, the Fars News, affiliated with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, reported that two people have been killed in the city of Lordagan during unrest there. Rights groups also reported the killing of a 37-year-old man, Daryash Ansari, in Faladashar, near the major city of Isfahan. Authorities also appeared to dispute the circumstances of that death, with Mar News, a semi-official outlet, reporting that he had died of injuries sustained during a fight in front of his house, and that investigations into his murder had commenced. The deaths were reported to have occurred on Wednesday and Thursday and were mostly clustered in Lordagan in southwest Iran and two cities in Loristan province in western Iran, where there appeared to have been intense clashes between protesters and security forces. A video verified by the BBC showed protesters in one Loristan city, Azna, setting fire to the local police station. So the authorities' response to the protest runs counter to the rhetoric of Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, who has said that the protesters have legitimate demands and told reporters on Thursday that if people are unhappy with this, we are the ones that fall. So that's an understatement to say that that's runs counter to. That's totally runs counter to does mean opposite, but I think it's interesting. This is the Iranian president. Now, I don't know how much power he has. I don't think he has all that much. I think that the real power lies in the Khomeini or whatever they call that office now. But still in all, he is an important Iranian official. And for him to say that is really rather unusual. And that could cause, he might find himself being one of the fatalities of all this. We'll have to see and wait and see on that. Back to our article. The most recent protest started Sunday with shopkeepers in Iran whose businesses have been wrecked by the sharp depreciation of the Iranian rial in recent weeks. The demonstrations then spread throughout Tehran and to cities across the country and drew in other elements of Iranian society. Though the protest started with economic grievances, others heard in videos that showed protesters voicing more fundamental demands, as well as praise for Iran's deposed monarchy. It's been decades since the monarchy was deposed, so I'm not sure that most of these people probably weren't even alive when that took place. But here's my overall opinion. The count of the dead is changing depending on who is doing the reporting. The only thing we can be sure of is that some Iranians have died as a result of the protests. The regime often uses violence to suppress protests. So these numbers are, in my opinion, likely to rise. Single digits sounds very small right now. And if these demonstrations are growing as big and as broad as they're saying, it's likely that there's going to be far more deaths. Also, you're going to see people disappearing. They may kill, but they'll end up in some prison somewhere. This also demonstrates that the embargo of Iranian products and other economic issues are having an impact. The United States and Europe, especially, really clamped down on them hard because of their human rights violations. And so now their partners are Russia to the north and China to the east, and a few others as well, like North Korea and so forth. They all cooperate with one another. So the real, that's RIAL, that's their money, it has become unstable. So I don't know if I say here that it looks like it's having an impact on them. But there are other countries, and there's also other means of trade and so forth. So I don't know how effective this actually is, but it does seem the fact that it's impacting the nation, impacting the ability for Iran's people to um, survive, to carry on business, to do what's necessary, what a strong economy would have. And so there's definitely some economic problems here. And that is, I haven't heard of any rumbles yet at this point. And I kind of even hesitate to say this because I don't want to be stirring the pot. But protests like this historically have, not just in Iran, but here in our own country, preceded revolution. In our country, the United States of America, when we were a colony of Egypt, there was protests. The Boston Tea Party, that was actually a protest, and they were dressed up as Indians, but they were actually citizens, and so they protested, and nobody in that particular one, I don't think anybody got killed, but there are a lot of damage done. Um, and then were other ones in which if somebody got caught, they were subject to punishment up to and including death. And so eventually that led to revolution. So you look throughout history and you see how how this has worked out in the past. The Soviet Union, as I recall it, collapsed because of protests. they couldn't control them. They were out of control and getting bigger all the time. And I don't know if you could call it an out and out revolution, but it was strong enough of a protest, and strong enough and big enough and covered widespreading enough that the whole Soviet Union just collapsed. I think part of that was triggered by the fact that the troops were not going to fire on their own people. And so that's what triggered that collapse. Well, that could happen here in Iran. I have not heard any rumbles about that, any rumors or anything. This is strictly me thinking out of the box, so to speak, and trying to see and maybe see what's going on. A lot of times they protests come and they're suppressed, and this one may end up being suppressed as well. But right now, they're having trouble controlling it. And with the president of Iran actually siding with the protesters, makes it even harder to do. They have the military might to suppress. So, at least on paper, they do. So, what will they do? Well, we don't know. Like I said, I haven't heard any talk about it all. It came to my mind as I read the article. So, what the future holds, I don't know. It could very well lead to a revolution. It could very well lead to the fall of this Iranian government. Will it bring back the Shah monarchy? I don't know. Man, that's been a long time. There may be some of that element still in exile, who could then come back, but it's been such a long time. I don't know if that's possible, and I don't even know that even though they might praise the monarchy, when it would come right down to it, would they actually choose a monarchy rather than maybe some form of democracy? And not likely they're going to get our form because we are a Christian nation, even if we don't, even if the actual Christian numbers are more in the minority than in the majority. Most Americans, if they were pressed on it, would probably say, "Well, I'm a Christian." They may not never attend church. They may not have a Bible. They may not even have ever made a commitment to God whatsoever. But because that's what they were raised as, they identify themselves as Christians. And we tend to follow the Christian view when it comes to law and order. So I don't know what Iran would do. And in the end, there probably in the very end, we get to the end times. I believe that they're going to be um, cohorts with Russia that coming from the north and also from the east. And by the way, China's in that mix too. There's just so many different countries that are in that mix. So it's hard to, with that in view, it's hard to see what's going to happen in the one particular country or not, because ultimately it will fail. And so hopefully this has been a one in which I've given you some information. I always try to inform you, encourage you, and inspire you. I've tried to inform you, especially today. Uh, there was an article in today's paper. They were talking about an interview that President Trump did, in which he explained that he was that he had not he had got a CT rather than an MRI, and they seem to be making a big deal out of it. Part of that is because he questioned Biden's um, ability to govern, which was, by the way, right in front of our eyes. Um, just because he's in his late 70s doesn't mean that he's incapable. But that's the way media works. They'll take something, pull it out of context, and emphasize it. It was just an incidental statement he made. It didn't really come out to that big of a deal. Well, you have a great day, great weekend. I'll see you in the next episode.